Hello my friends, welcome back to my channel. It's Samantha back here with another little video, a silly little video, just literally me recording myself making pretty things and putting it out there into the world so that, eventually when I do slide off this mortal coil, I will have something to show for it. Apart from my three beautiful children. So I thought today that we would have a look at making these gorgeous heart motif flowers. Aren't they pretty? I did a video with these motif little hearts a while ago and made some sort of partial hoop boho earrings. And a few people at the time asked me to show them how I made these and also how to make this gorgeous pendant, which I will do in a different video, I think, because it would make this video too long. So I'll do that another time. But let's have a look at what we need to make these. All right, so in order to make these, you're only going to need a few different ingredients. And the first one is 1mm bare copper wire, or indeed you could make these out of silver wire if you wanted, or gold, but 1mm 18 gauge. You're also going to need some 0.4, that's 26 gauge copper wire, again, or a wire of your choosing. You're going to need your tools, so various different tools. I'm using my various chain nose pliers. These are my favorites. You're also going to need some cutters, obviously, and I'm using my 6-step bell making plier, 2 to 9 increments. I'll be using this one here, which is the 2mm. All right, so if you wanted to measure 2mm on your round nose, then go ahead. For the centers, you're going to need some of these wonderful, very, very versatile copper washers that you can buy from pretty much anywhere. And I will be using, what size are those? Is that the right size? Yes, I shall be using 12 by 16 by 1. All right, so you're going to need 2 of those, like so. And what else are you going to need? You will need a ruler just to measure out your lengths of wire, and you're going to need, it's optional, but you will need a block and hammer just to give your little washers a little bit of texture if you so desire, and a Sharpie marker or a marker of whatever description, doesn't have to be a Sharpie. And I think that's it, apart from some beads. I'm using the beads from the Check Beads exclusive bag that I got a couple of months ago, but I'm using 3mm beads. All right, so if you wanted to grab some 3mm beads, that's all you need. All right, so, and the only other thing that you're going to need is a good light source. Now, today's video is sponsored by the beautiful people at Honeywell, who were very kind enough to send me a gorgeous desk lamp, which I have to say I use all the time now. Even when it's light outside, I use it on my desk. It illuminates beautifully. So I'll just take you through what it looks like and how it works. And if you're interested, I'll leave all the details in the description box. All right, so I'll see you in a few. I'm sure you guys know that I only ever have things on my channel that I really, really love. And I was so happy and proud to be approached by the lovely people at Honeywell who sent me this amazing desk lamp. It has really, really soft and intuitive controls. Featherlight touch needed, absolutely gorgeous. And how elegant does it look on the desk? You can control exactly where the light goes actually. So obviously it bends up and down. The lamp itself rotates up and down, side to side, and you can angle it. Brilliant. I don't know about you, but I like to do some crafting in my lounge room in the evening, and it's absolutely perfect. It's so portable, so I bring it from my conservatory where I do most of my crafting and bring it into the lounge, where it's great for things like your knitting or your crochet, or if you're doing your beading in the lounge room. Super lovely controls. You just literally wipe your finger over the top of the bar. Angle it up and down. I absolutely love this little thing. Beautiful. Thanks, Honeywell. Love it. So if you are interested in that beautiful, beautiful lamp, I will leave all the details down in the description box, actually, guys. And I really, really love it. It's a beautiful lamp. So let's get going. Excuse my calloused hands here. I do way too much wire wrapping, don't I? Oh dear. Anyway, let's get going and I will show you how to make these beautiful earrings. All right, so you're going to need your copper washers. And I will tell you the size. I'll also put all the information in the description box below. I use this size here, and I believe that to be 14 by 18 by 1, I think. I will double check and put everything. Yeah, 14 by 18 by 1. So you're going to need your copper washer. Oh, like actually 2 copper washers, and all you need to do, I won't do it on screen because it's super, super loud and super, super discordant, but just give it a light tap, a light hammer, put some texture on it if you want to. If you want to leave it plain, that's entirely up to you. But once you have done that, which I have, here's one I made earlier, as the saying goes, let's get going. So we come in with our 1mm 18 gauge wire, and you want to be chopping off flush cut the end, obviously, as with most things that we do, nice and neat. And each one of these takes 3 centimeters of wire. So you want to have 12 of these, obviously, because we've got 6 on each earring. So I'm only going to do a couple. I won't do all 12 because it will be a really long and boring video, won't it? If I do that. So cut your lengths of wire, okay? Then the next thing that we do is come in with our Sharpie. We want to be marking the halfway point on your little piece of wire. So 1.5, 1.5. Put a little mark in the center point. And again, 1.5. So just mark the center of each of your lengths of wire so that we know where the center point is when we're bending our little hearts inwards. So I have a 2 to 9 increment plier. This is a 2mm. So I'm going to use the smallest mandrel. So put a loop on either side, going in the, turning inwards on the same side, so that we have that shape. So do that with all of your little pieces of wire, like so. Bend inwards, like so. All right, so you have 12 of these, or 6, or actually if you wanted to use a bigger ring, you could do, just do however many you like. So the mark that we've used here, you want to place your plier just to the right of the mark, because we're going to be bending it inwards. So if you just put it to the right, start to bend, move your plier, bend inwards, like so. What we're aiming for is for these 2 loops at the top to be the same level. Okay, so again, put your plier just to the right of the mark, bend, shift your plier over, bend. All right, so that each one of those, the little loops, is level at the top. All right, so do that for however many you need. I've made quite a few, so let's take 6. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and let's see, 6. Just make sure that all your loops are level. All right, so we have our 6 little heart shapes. Right, so here we have our little hearts and we're ready to start wrapping them onto the form, onto the copper washer. So you're going to need, I think, let me just work this out in centimetres, 30. I'm going to say take 40 centimetres of wire, which is 16 inches, something like that, give or take. You're going to need enough to go round, and any that's left you can use later on to attach the beads. So don't worry about much wastage here. There shouldn't be very much at all. Hopefully I've got enough here. All right, so first thing you need to do is just put one wrap just to anchor it, like so. Like so. Yeah, and then you come in with one of your little hearts. Now we're going to be wrapping the hearts on top of the washer, so it looks like so. Now I've found when I've been making these, if you wrap the wire hearts next to the washer, it's a little unstable. If you wrap them on just on top of the washer, they're much more stable, and it also gives you a little bit of texture, a little bit of a curve, especially when you're bringing the beads in, because you can pull things in a little bit, and it's really quite a nice effect. So pop your wire through the middle of the washer very gently. Don't want to be upsetting your wire at this point, and then pop your wire over the top of the washer and through the first hole, the first loop. Now when you're doing this, just be really, really careful to start with. You don't want to kink your wire up. So this part here is a little fiddly, but it does get better as you go. It's like with everything else that we do, isn't it? It's fiddly to start with, and then the more you go around, the better it gets. All right, so just anchor that on there like so, and then back through. I hope my fat fingers aren't in the way and you can see what I'm doing. So all the time, just keep straightening your wire out. Okay, so do this 3 times in each of the loops. So back through, back through. These hearts will right themselves the more you go along. All right, so you can see there, that's number 2. Back through. Don't be put off by the fiddliness of this. And then back through for the 3rd wrap. Okay, and very gently pull taut. So as you can see here now, it's starting to get attached, isn't it? So the first couple are a little problematic, I won't lie to you, but worth it, I think. Back up through the centre, very gently. It's at this stage that we don't want to snap our wire, because we all know how annoying that is. So through the centre of the heart. I think probably when I'm editing this, I will bring it in a bit closer so you can see nice and slowly, so that you have a wrap in the middle between the 2 loops, if that makes sense. So the next thing we need to do is put 3 wraps in this next loop. All right, so up through the center, straighten your wire, down through this 2nd loop here. And pull, but only very gently, so that your wire doesn't kink up. So that's 1 wrap up through. These wraps don't have to be really, really neat. I don't like them to be too neat. Okay, back down through the loop for a 2nd wrap. You can make them as neat as you like, but I quite like the organic sort of nature of these. Back up the middle. Okay, again, straighten your wire, and then back through for the 3rd and final wrap for this particular heart. And then pull. Okay, so as you can see here, we have our first heart motif attached. So back through the center, and then 1 wrap over the top of the washer and back up through. So essentially we've got three wraps in the loop, one in between, 3 wraps in the loop, and then 1 in between the hearts. So you come in with your next heart, like so, and just place it just gently on top. Okay, so here we go again. So take your wire through the first loop of the second heart. That happens, don't worry about it. Don't worry about anything. There we go. Just sight your heart on the top and gently tug on the wire. The first wrap is always the problematic one. Don't worry about it. Okay, so back up through, back through for a second. Gently pull. There we go. So things are starting to settle down now. We've got that first wrap on. Back up through, like so, and back through for a third wrap. So 3 wraps in between. Okay, then back up the center, like so, and we want 1 wrap in between the loops. So through the center of the heart, very gently pull through. So that's 1 wrap in the center. And then we want to start with 3 wraps in this second loop of the heart. So I hope all of that is making sense. So through, very gently, place it just on top, like so. The key to this is keeping everything nice and tight and taut. Have nothing flapping around in the wind, which is slightly difficult to do sometimes, especially if you have, you know, fat fingers like me or arthritic fingers, but it's worth it. So that's the second one, back through, and back down for a third. Come in with your pliers if you need to. Okay, so there's our second heart attached. So like with the last one, back up through and 1 wrap in between, like so, back up through. So we'll just do 1 more and then we'll meet back when all of the 6 are on and we'll finish it off. All right, so let's just grab another little heart. Place it just on top. Pop your wire through the first loop. Done it again, hasn't it? But that's fine. Don't worry about it. Just sight it on top, like so. Pop it up through, like so. Back down for a second one, just through the loop. Yeah, I think that first wrap is a little bit problematic, but you know, once you get 1 or 2 wraps on, it gets a little easier. So there's our first loop, back up through and down the center of the heart for a wrap in the center, like so. Up through to secure that one. And then we've just got this second loop to look at now, haven't we? So down there for 3 wraps. That's 1, up, down for 2, back up, and down for 3. Back up, and 1 wrap around the washer. So obviously when you're making these yourself, if you're making them slightly bigger or smaller or whatever, you can determine how many wraps you want. I quite like the look of how those wraps are. They're pretty, aren't they? All right, so let's meet back when we've got all the other 3 put on, and then we'll finish the actual wrapping of the hearts, and then we'll go for the beads. Okay, so we'll see you in a few. Right, my friends, how are we doing? Okay, so we are right back at the end now, and I just have one more wrap to do in this last loop here. But what I tend to do now is release this anchor wrap here, like so, and then release the second anchor wrap, like so. So you only have 2 wraps in that first section here. All right, just the 2 wraps, and bring it towards the back. Sounds a bit weird, but the first ones anchor it, and then to make it look nice and neat and symmetrical, this is what I do. So take for the final wrap over, so you've got 3 wraps in that final loop, back up for your wrap in between, like so, and then back up and through the first heart that you put on. So that means you've got 3 wraps in the first one as well. Okay, so it makes I hope that makes sense. If it doesn't, write to me and I'll see if I can explain myself a bit better. If you find that your spacing is a little off kilter, just use your fingers and spread out the little heart motifs equally. So as you can see on the back here, we've got literally 2 wires popping out. So snip that one there and snip that one there. Watch your eyes as always, get rid of those, and then just come in with your pliers and just settle those down. Now, because we're not wearing this in anything but our ear, not too much of a problem. It doesn't have to be completely exact, you know, completely tight. Just make sure that there's no sharp edges. All right, so there's our little flower. Isn't that cute? So, you know, you could use, where is it? Where have I put it? You could put an ear wire on there. Lost my ear wire now. There it is. So you could just put an ear wire on there and wear it as it is. Or you can do the next stage of this is to come in with your beads, which I think looks quite pretty if we have beads on it. But again, still looks pretty with pretty. Still looks quite pretty without the beads. But let's bring our beads in. All right, so I have got 3mm beads here. And these ones I got from the Check Beads exclusive subscription box a couple of months ago. Absolutely gorgeous. I'll pop a link down in the description box if you're interested in having a look at the Craftica website, Check Beads exclusive. Beautiful, beautiful subscription box. But let's have a look at these. So take a piece of, again, your 0.4. I'll try and whip through this so it's not too exhaustive. And I like to wrap underneath so that the wire is underneath. All right, so pop your wire like so, and you just basically want to bring it up through one of the little flower petals, if you want to call it that, and do one wrap like so, just to anchor it on. Again, if you need to use your pliers, that's fine. So we have 2 wraps there, back through for 3 and pull, and then back through for 4 wraps like so. There we are, and then push that down so that the wraps meet the end of the loop like so. Pop your bead on. So there we go. I'll pop these little beads on and we'll wrap those in between the 2 petals of the flower essentially. All right, so pop your wire up through and pull taut. Now, and then wrap over. I like the fact that when you pull these beads taut in between, it makes the petals come up into sort of almost like a little cup, if you will, which I think gives it a little bit of movement and a little bit of, you know, shape. So flowers aren't completely flat, are they? So back up for 2 wraps, like so. Back up for 3. So essentially you're just replicating the same on the other side. That's our 3rd. And then back up for our 4th. Like so. There we are. That's our first bead on. So at the back, obviously, just snip and then snip. And then we use our little pliers just to squidge and burnish slightly. So squish and twist, just to make sure that those little 0.4 wires, there's no sharp edges, like so. And that's our first bead on. So we'll do one more. Okay. So up through the left part of this next flower, and then up just to anchor. Come in with your pliers if you need to, which I do quite often. Okay, so that's our second, that's 2 wraps. Back down for a 3rd. Back down for a 4th. So I'm using 4 wraps in between. If you really wanted to, you could use wraps all the way around your petals. Various ways that you can decorate these. But this is just how I'm doing these today. Pop your bead on, like so, in between, and then back up the next petal. And I will just come in with my plier at this stage, just to tighten things that my fingers can't do. Back up for number 2. Back up for number 3. The only thing I will say is just be gentle with your 0.4 wire, because it can be a little temperamental and it can snap if you're not careful. Okay, and then back underneath again. All right, so just snip off and snip off, and then come in with your pliers just to smish, that's a good word, squish or smush things into place. There we go. How's that look? Beautiful, huh? So there we are. I say so a lot, don't I? Never mind. Honestly, these bridge words that people use when they're making videos, if it gets annoying, just mute me, it's fine. All right, so I'll meet you back when we have done all of the beads on, okay? So have fun, and I'll see you in a few minutes. And we are back, so hopefully you have gone around like this and you've got all your beads on. So we'll just do the final wrap, which is wrap number 4. We'll just go over the top there, and then final time, just snip off the wires. Use that for something else, but not that bit there, too small. And then just come in and squish everything down, so everybody's nice and happy and there's no sharp edges anywhere. So there is your beautiful little flower. Isn't that cute? And as you can see, because we have pulled the beads in a little tighter, it's given it a little bit of a cup shape, all right? Because, you know, cute. Right, so let's come in with our ear wire. You can also decorate these how you like. You can use whatever ear wires you prefer. I think for these, just a simple ear wire. Now they are dangly, but I have had a few pairs of these in my ears, and they sit really quite nicely and quite close to the head. You know, they're not hugely dangly. So if you're not into massive dangle earrings, these are perfect. So there we go. Aren't they beautiful? Gorgeous, gorgeous wire wrapped beaded flower earrings. And I really, really hope that you enjoy making those. Hopefully my little silly video was relatively easy to follow and you have fun making these. And I'll see you in my next one. Thanks for watching, guys.